Hi. You know what? It is mid to late October, and it's time to start thinking about scary stuff. Now, in today's world, and probably a whole generation has grown up with it now, so it seems totally normal to everybody, the parents, the grandparents, and the children, to have these church events called trick or treats. I think they're kind of lame, but I could understand being a little fat boy in a costume, just, some kind of little innocent costume. I wonder. Okay, it goes on at the Bloomfield Baptist Church's parking lot. Now, I love the Bloomfield Baptist Church. They were always the prettier, more popular church. They had more kids and they did more cool stuff for their congregation than we little poor churches did. Now, we little poor churches would be the other Protestant churches that the Presbyterian, the Methodist, and the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, would join forces and get kind of maybe a sort of equal energy going as the Bloomfield Baptist Church, but never quite. So here's something that the Bloomfield Baptist Church did for me that changed my life. And I'm going to tell you the story, but right now I have prepared some little background music, which I'll play real low. I hope it's so low it doesn't interfere, but just adds to the effect. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got going on here? Come on, honey. I want you to play, please. You know that little tune? See, I messed it up. But anyway, it'll get right now. I won't mess up anymore. Listen, I will. Okay. So, we're going to October of 1973. I'm in the 7th grade. I am not quite 12. And it is early October, and there is a rumbling among the Baptist children, my friends, that the Bloomfield Baptist Church are constructing a haunted house, and that we are going to enjoy it. We are going to go through it. It might have been free, but it might have been $1, because lots of things were $1 back then, and I'm sure it wasn't cheap to produce the haunted house I'm going to tell you about. Okay, I'm going to tell you that at the time, I remember there was a group of young and energetic newlyweds and people, and young parents that became very active in the church, and they had a lot of new ideas. So they had this idea: let's put together a haunted house, and then we'll take one of our many beautiful church buses, and we will bus the children to the haunted house, and then we will bus them home when the haunted house is through. So it sounded pretty cool, and I was real excited, and I was a little bit nervous because somebody had said, "Oh, it's not for 7th. You're in the 7th grade, but you've got to be 12." And I said, I'm going to just pretend I'm 12 because I'm doing it. I'm really glad I did, because it changed my life immeasurably. So here's what happened. Just about dark, just about sundown, we kids converged upon the Bloomfield Baptist Church parking lot. And we boarded the Bloomfield Baptist Church bus, where the interior lights were turned on as brightly as possible. Providing like a party mood, and we weren't paying attention. People were throwing things at each other, not anything dangerous, but people were like, yeah, high five, we're going to have fun here and everything. Here's the deal. When the driver got on the bus, he started up the bus, he left the interior lights on, so that once we got out of the city lights, we could not see where we were, and you couldn't really just look out the front windshield either, because it was a full bus full of excited children, so we had no idea. We could have been being bused to, I don't know, Krakow. I don't know, but we were being bused somewhere we didn't know. We were having fun. And then all of a sudden we were there, and the bus turned off. It might have been, they had a fleet of buses. It was probably a whole fleet of buses of children that the Baptists sent out there. Anyway, I remember we got off the bus and immediately got into line to go through a real weed-high front yard. And I remember this weird smell that to this day, if I smelled it, I would associate it with hauntings and ghosts and all things like that. I don't know what that, it probably was some weed or something that was growing there. See, we did not know they had taken us out to Cooney Neck Road, which was just all farms and farmhouses. Now, I'm sure there were children who lived on Cooney Neck Road whose parents drove them into Bloomfield and giggled as they let them out to get on the bus to secretly be bused back to Cooney Neck Road to this haunted house. Now, when you got off, it was dark, you could kind of see the silhouette of the house, and you could see like strobe lights going off inside, and you could hear people screaming. Really big screams of bloody terror, and it was like, oh God, here we go. But you're thinking, it's a Bloomfield Baptist Church, how scary can it be? So anyway, we start in to the front door of this property, and you're greeted by like a little band of witches. And these witches I'll tell you who they were. They were kind of like your hostesses throughout the evening. They had secret ways of getting around from one place to the other. I guess they did it as one group at a time. But anyway, it was Marion Love was one witch, and Kay Cornell was another witch, and Diane Eads Stevens was another witch. So they were like, oh, enjoy, now crawl. So a lot of this haunted house we went through on our hands and knees in a plastic-lined tunnel. And you could hear people screaming and stuff, but you didn't know, and occasionally you'd feel a hand touch you and stuff. But then occasionally you would come up on something slimy and icky, and you'd pick it up and your eyes would adjust, and you would realize, if this is not an actual intestine out of a cow, they did a good job of pretending. And then it was like, oh my God, if they faked this big dead cowsucker snake here that is now in my hands, they're really brilliant. So anyway, and then at one point, now, I don't know if I saw this or somebody told me, because I was petrified and I was paralyzed, except I could still move, and because of, more about the inertia of the people behind me going, go on, anyway. So, so somebody said that they saw an actual cow head, where a cow had been butchered, and they had just decided to put the cow head there off to the side when you're climbing through the maze, and you see it, and you're filled with horror. And then you started to come out into these little rooms where these scenarios were going on. And we went back to the witches. They were doing something around a cauldron, but then we went through this room where Brother Sam Stevens, the minister of music, his head was cut off. To us, his head was cut off on a tray, and blood was trickling down his face, and there was, I don't know, some evil person with him. But anyway, it was real frightening, and the way he moved, like he was a real dead head coming to life on its own. Very scary. Then we had to go through a real tight little hallway where we had to pass Charles Cornell laying in an actual casket that had been on loan from Hoagland's funeral home, that some dead man had been shipped there in, and then they just kept it. That's what the story was. But anyway, he was beneath like a sheet, like a web, a scrim of tobacco canvas. But you could just tell he was going to come to life and be a vampire and kill me. But you know what? I went on through, and then you had to keep being interrupted by the biggest, scariest Frankenstein character. It was Mr. Tom Love, and he was already 7 feet tall. He had big blocks on his shoes. I did not know this at the time, because he was a very real monster. He had the great head and everything, but I kept reaching out. I remember going, I reached out, and it was like, well, what's that? And it was something rubbery, and it was his finger, because he had these big rubber hands on, and he would just open a little trap door and just reach out for you. And you know what? There were no rules or anything. They could touch us. They could touch us, and they touched us. They all touched us anyway. So I hope I'm not leaving anything really great and juicy out, but here is the very best part. The last room of the house, you were so filled with terror because you saw a strobe light going like this, and you heard screaming, running, falling, tumbling, things crashing, and you were like, And the thing is, once you get up there, then the strobe lights in your eyes, and you are trapped in this unreal world. And our Baptist minister, Brother Earl Pike, God rest his soul, sweet, kind man, was wearing a jumpsuit, and he had a stocking over his head, and he was wielding a chainsaw, and the object of the game was to get past him, and he had the chainsaw, but you saw the back door there. It was like a screen door. It was like the door was open, the screen door. You wanted to run through and out that door. But here was the kicker. Here was the part that made it so special. They had lined the floors with unshelled walnuts. Now, if you know what those are, I'm not talking about the black. I'm talking about when they're big and green and bruisey looking. It's like trying to run across a floor that's covered with baseballs. You had to fall down and get hurt. Well, then you got out that door. You got out that door, and then you're like, oh my God, thank God that's through. And then you went down in total darkness, this real steep hill, into this little hollow there where they had a bonfire, and we roasted wieners, which was really fun, and it was really good. And the night was like, yes, yes, even though I did turn around one time, I was eating a wiener and turned around, and there was Tom Love again, still dressed like Frankenstein, with those big rubber fingers that freaked me out. Anyway, that was a fun. It ruined it forever. Now listen, one of my besties now, who was a good friend then, but not really one of my besties, I didn't even realize this at the time because we weren't hanging together. Honey, when she got to the part where she saw that Brother Pike was in there, she said, ho, shutting it down. No, nay. You're going to let little Wendy out now. And they somehow took her sideways and let her out a little side door. She did not have to go through the room and be chased by a chainsaw-wielding Brother Pike. And she didn't have to fall down on the walnuts like everybody else did. And I don't think I did. But I know that when she outside, then it was like, and you know what? It took a while. So there weren't kids like waiting for you to go down there. Anyway, enough about that. So then, I was not best friends with my all-time best friend, Lonnie Wright, yet. But honestly, that haunted house had something to do with it. Now, I don't know if he attended that haunted house in another group because he was 3 years older than I was. I do not know that, but I know that we came together as friends by trying to collaborate on the coolest haunted house anybody had ever seen in the greater northeastern Nelson County area. And we were going to do it in his barn. And every day we would study it, and we would study, and I would say, now the Bloomfield Baptist Church did this. I thought it was very successful when they did this, but when they did this, it was a little, do you think we need to leave that part off and then maybe get on and maybe enrich the other characters? Anyway, that's how we were every night, and it was funny because we were both little strange boys, and our families were intermarried, and our parents were besties and stuff like that, but they did not want us together. And it was really funny because when we started hanging out talking about that, honey, they were like, now what are y'all doing? I'm like, we are planning the coolest haunted house ever in Lonnie's barn. Get over it. And they finally did, but it took a lot of years and stuff. So anyway, here's the thing about it. I went to that haunted house and I never went to another one until I'm going to tell you that in the ninth grade, they took a church. There was a fellow named Pop Hayes who had a school bus, and he would pick kids up for a small fee and take them to things like skating in Mount Washington, or he took us all to the Wacky Haunted House in Louisville. Wacky was our number one radio station. We all listened to Wacky because it was the top 10 all the time at the time, and it was so rumored. There were always the ads for it, and it was rumored like, there's a place you go in there and it's a lot of live cockroaches and they're eating you and you don't know what to do. And they say things like, people have gone in there and just died of fright. It's so scary. And I thought, here was my thought. Okay, I boarded that bus with my friends and drove to Louisville with Pop Hayes. And then as everybody exited the bus, I realized that I was the last one on the bus except for my friend Wendy. And I I don't know why we weren't really together on it, because I remember she was there, but we weren't like, man, this sucks, till way later. So I guess we were both just riddled with shame. But the thing was, it was Wendy and me and Pop Hayes on the bus. And he was like, y'all not going to go in? I'm like, don't think I can. I just freaked out and I couldn't do it, because I thought if the Bloomfield Baptist Church could so thoroughly scare the bejesus out of me, as they did, out on Cooney Neck Road, Lord knows what these sophisticated Louisvillian JCs have got going on. They probably do just dip you in rooms full of live cockroaches and let them eat on you and stuff. And they probably have corpse parts in there that they touch you with. They're like, here, touch this. It's a corpse's part. Anyway, I thought that was what it was. Honey, I didn't go to another haunted house until I was 18 years old. And it was in Mount Washington. And people had said, ooh. And I went with Wendy and Jane and Terry. And we looked scarier from the makeup I'd put on us than they did in there. And also, it was so lame. And also, nobody told me when I was a kid, they can't touch you and shit. They can't. They're not supposed to touch you in those haunted houses. They're just supposed to visually scare you. Anyway, I'm going to go because this is 16 minutes long. But it's a good Halloween story. And let me tell you something. I hope that somewhere along, I know that you all make it real cushy for your children. As our parents did too when they drove us to Pleasant View. And then just let us walk down the street while they just slowly idled and moved on down a few more houses and waited for us to see that we were safe. Y'all will never know the true terror. Those you kids, you better hope that somebody in your community or your church realizes that Halloween can't be all about angels and Native American costumes and Disney stuff. There has to be a little bit of sheer terror. There has to be some body parts, some screaming, some really good imitation blood, which Diane Eads told us was Welch's grape juice concentrate thawed, made the best. Beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to go. Y'all have a good Saturday. And start thinking about Halloween and stuff. And stop thinking about all the bad stuff. And just think about the good, scary stuff. And thinking about scary movies you can watch. Okay, bye. Love you. Bye.